Fear not, citizens. Hope has arrived because Izuku Midoriya has returned. This is the oh my gosh. This chapter is called Peaches in Japanese, but it's called Full Moon in English. This is the Amateur Otaku podcast. I'm your host today, President Mike. Joining me, as always, are my great co-hosts and friends, Isaac Wolf and Brandon Alvarado. Isaac, for the love of God, please get this GIF off the screen. Welcome.
How did you know it was me?
Who else would it be, man?
Brandon, maybe?
It also shows who's sharing their screen.
Whoops.
Wow.
Yeah. Isaac, how you doing, man?
I'm tired. Otherwise, I'm good.
Yeah. Your insanity is in full force today.
And yes, Nathan, this is where the fun begins.
This is indeed where the fun begins, as Anakin Skywalker once said. Horikoshi's number one fan. How are you?
I cannot wait to dig into these chapters.
Enough said. Yeah. So I guess, as you guys know, we missed last week's chapter. It came out on a Monday, so we just decided to hold it over so we can kind of double dip today, which is always fun, especially since we kind of have full context on what the previous chapter was going for. So this is chapter 366 of My Hero Academia. If you aren't caught up with the last two chapters of the manga, we will see you next week for season 6 of Boku no Hero Academia. With that said, let's get into it. Again, it's called Full Moon. Isaac broke the show already in the first 2 minutes. But
new record.
Yeah, new record for insanity. You love to see it. This chapter starts off with, well, it kind of picks up where we left off. You know, we're fighting all for Shiggy, and he has gone to his final form, or his newly evolved form, I should say. We have his family, like, emerging out of his left side, and now he's got this entire, like, armor of hands engulfing his entire torso. It is very disturbing. Isaac, say the thing.
He should do a comedy manga.
God dang it, Isaac. You had one job. So, this chapter, we're seeing the heroes. You know, the man has been struggling this entire battle. I appreciate the effort, the attempt to just buy those 2 seconds, right? And that's really what this entire chapter boils down to. It's Mirio Togata's, Lemillion's inner monologue of him trying to figure out, what can I do in this battle? He's not equipped for it. He's not the strongest one here. He's kind of just been biding his time. But then he remembers Sir Night Eye's words, right? And we are reminded of Night Eye saying he sees a future where Lemillion becomes one of the world's greatest heroes. That said, and I'm going to toss this over to you, Brandon, I don't think anybody expected this would be his MVP clutch moment, right? Full Moon.
So it's funny because I'm really glad, more than ever, when I read this chapter, I think I texted you, Mike, and pretty much I told you that I'm really happy that we're holding it off, because it's a big tonal shift from where we were in the chapter that we covered last week.
Yeah.
And it also syncs up perfectly with today's chapter, which we're going to cover as soon as we finish this one. But I don't think this is necessarily the clutch moment per se. I wouldn't say that. I think not to run away into the future, but I think his biggest clutch moment is towards the end of the next chapter. But definitely the idea that he's going to do whatever he can, whatever it takes with his abilities, especially because he is the one character in this fight apart that really can't do anything significant. Like, all he can do is be a huge support item throughout in different ways, shape, or form. But I think what shines through the brilliance of his buttocks is
Good grief.
it's right there. It's the fact that his spirit is what allows him to. Oh boy. His
Hey.
spirit, his spirit as a hero, is what allows him to catch Shigaraki off guard, and that's the point. Like, like he can't do it through mean. But and the funny thing, and the funniest thing of them all, is that nobody could have done it except him because of who he is, because of his spirit, and also because of his ability. His ability is built to catch people off guard. And he just did the most lewd, crazy, stupid thing, which makes perfect sense. And it worked. And we were able to hold on the extra 2 seconds that we needed. So I think it was great. It was a great moment because it just builds on the character of Togota. Because in comparison to a lot of the characters that we've seen, his arc in particular, the way we know it, has always been very fragmented. Because you get it for a little, you get a lot of him towards the overall arc, but you really don't get like a lot of him afterwards. You got to forget, but we got to understand this is a guy whose dream was lost when he sacrificed it to save someone, right? So the fact that he's back here and suddenly he still feels useless, it's like hurt over hurt, but it also tells you about what an amazing spirit Mirio has, and which I'm going to keep talking about this towards the next chapter. How important real heroes are and how important mentors are. Because the whole theme about inspiration, about mentors or heroes inspiring the next generation, it's a huge theme throughout My Hero Academia as a whole. And in these 2 chapters, that's going on all cylinders. And it kind of also justifies what a lot of people talk about the whole Stars and Stripes thing as something pointless or something that wasn't that great or whatever. But moments like this tells you what Horikoshi was trying to build towards, which I found awesome and great. Now, I do also like and maybe we can shift to a different side of it, the argument. But just to close out the whole thing with Mirio's ass, there's a two-folded meaning, in my opinion, with the title, because it's not just the idea of full moon in terms of his ass, but it's also the idea that full moon is a mythological symbol of transformation, and that is what all for Shiggy is going through in this chapter. He's going through it. He's leveling up to a different form, to a different. He's transforming, and it's interesting how how this particular transformation of all for Shiggy feels 100% Shiggy. It doesn't feel all for one at all. Like this is Shiggy, like front and center to a degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of that here, but also the idea of darkness and full moon, and that this transformation, as best Genus describes it, is a subconscious transformation that occurred out of fear, not because he feels that he's ahead.
Got you. Totally. No, he does not skip out on his squats.
I know, and they're so flexible.
Jeez, man. You know, like, I just got to say it. I did not think Mirio was the thickest person on the battlefield with Mitoko, but he might be.
Check the poll I did.
Yeah, you're going to have to just pull it up, Isaac. But I want to toss it over to you. And I'm glad Nathan kind of mentioned this in the comments here. This moment is kind of cringy. Now, Brandon just went on why he thinks it works for the character of Togata and the story Horikoshi's telling. What did you think of this chapter in general, but specifically this most controversial panel with Mirio's ass?
Well, first of all, the poll is, does Mirio has a big ass? And second of all, honestly, how should I put it? I get what Brandon is coming from. I'm not gonna deny that. But uh,
No,
but at
she's not. You know, she wins out. I'm sorry.
but at the same time, when I first read it, it felt like a Dragon Ball gag. I'm not talking Dragon Ball Super. I'm talking Dragon Ball gag. And Dragon Ball's humor doesn't fit in My Hero Academia in my book because they aren't a gag kind of series, if you catch my drift. That's sort of so I am kind of 50-50.
So I'm gonna throw something out there because I think what you said is something very interesting, especially in a discussion of humor in manga. Because just like in anime in general, like anime and manga, it's like there's so much out there. There's something for everybody, right? There's so many different branches of comedy that you can see in anime, just like any other genre. Now, that being said, and understanding your point, I somewhat disagree only because our introduction to Togata is as a comedic figure. Like, that was our introduction to him.
Can I
Not-
interject right quick?
Go.
That's not. Yeah, he is introduced as a comedic character, but this isn't even the first time he's played that same gag. Hold on, look at this. He's done this before. He has
Yes.
done the Peach gag before in the manga and in the anime.
All right.
And
I know.
I just, I'm not going to sit here and say it's out of character. If you think it's not
The
appropriate
Peach.
for-
Oh my God.
the Peach is right. Which
Yeah, I know, but it still feels like a Dragon Ball gag,
Well,
even if
but-
it's in character.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I get what you're saying. So I'm going to point it a different way. Horikoshi has made himself known as someone that loves the medium as a whole. Could this be his homage to that kind of comedy? Because different characters pay homage to different ideas. You know what I mean? So this could be another type of homage.
is this his sexy jutsu?
Hey, I, you know?
Yeah. I think it's, again, when you're trying to remember, this is very true. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I guess you could also look at it as he's trying to distract Shigaraki, and that's the point I'm about to make, right? This is a strange moment because I get everything Isaac's saying. I also get what Nathan's comments are saying. But I guess my thing is, Mandalay stresses they need to buy 2 seconds, and he just resorts to the first thing he can think of. It's not a well thought out plan. It's not like it's not like this was his trump card. It was, what can I do to make this fool pause for Deku to arrive? That's why I don't sweat it that much. Is it cringy? Yeah. Is it funny? Not really. But I could totally see last second, Miria's like, oh God, what do I do? I'm going to just resort to the Peach joke that I've done before.
Because he has nothing else.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, and I think to Isaac's point, because he has a very good point, and so does Arkwinder.
He's Nathan on Twitter. He's the one that sent me the Bakugo memes weeks
cool.
ago.
Wait, so we have you to blame. Thanks for that. Fun times.
But the one thing that I do want to mention also is,
I'm sorry. Hold on. This has me dying. That's fair. That's very fair.
Truth.
I'm not
Truth.
arguing that.
Truth. Now I'm gonna turn this around a little bit. It wouldn't have worked. It works for what it needs to happen, but this particular move couldn't have worked with any other character. So you can't really deny the what's the word I'm looking for? The no pun intended. Horikoshi did not pull this out of his ass. Not, so yeah, it came from the heart. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It is cringy. It comes out of nowhere. Personally, I was so caught up in the, and now it's Peach smacking her. Oh my god. Okay.
Can you at least be creative and send a different GIF once in a while, man?
No,
It's been
because then
playing.
he'll go hentai. Don't do that. Just don't stop. But he yes, he did. Now we all agree that it was cringy. We all agree that it was like out of left field. But I think the question is, I don't think it didn't. I don't think it did. Let's start there. I don't think it did. Do y'all think that moment eliminated the tension that the chapter carries?
Isaac.
Because in my mind it didn't, and the final panels definitely still delivered anyway.
Yeah, the final panel delivered. Don't get me wrong. It was just the joke came out of nowhere, and yes, it was his. He just did something. I can't come up on everything. He couldn't find any other solution. It just it's there's a reason why I say I cannot can understand where you're coming from, but it still feels like just out of nowhere Dragon Ball gag that's just what?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I think
no, I was just gonna say I think it had the effect he wanted it to, because that's the point, right? It comes out of nowhere. That's why it stuns Shigaraki. It's ridiculous. That's why it stuns Shigaraki. And as it does like diminish the tension, but that's what it's supposed to do. And then he hits you with Deku out of nowhere. So everything we felt, that emotional up and down from that moment, I think is intentional. Now, whether you think it's super cringy and you don't like it, that's up to you. That's a personal thing. But I think the effect Horikoshi wanted it to have it's what we got. So I think it was a pretty effective method there.
And it was interesting because this particular chapter was such an emotional roller coaster, because you have the tension of Shigaraki going full werewolf, right? With all the hands, the new kind of armor, the whole thing, and he's literally knocking out everyone one by one, and he's not stopping, right? And so you're like, oh crap, like this is it, right? And it's so interesting the way that Horikoshi has a way of building tensions, and the way that he organizes panels in different sizes. Like there's a way to the geometry and how he organizes the pages that I find very interesting. And it does it so well that I love the whole experience of tension. Mirio's ass? Holy fuck, Deku! Like, I like that roller coaster that it took me in.
It's kind of the Marvel method, right? Where you have big moments of tension, you introduce a moment of levity, but that doesn't stop the badass moments from being badass.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next chapter, because I feel like we're kind of leaning that way, I just want to show this. Hopefully, my screen doesn't glitch out. Horikoshi did the thing where he takes inspiration from the anime and puts it in the manga. These first two shots are from the third intro of My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
They're not manga inspired, but Deku's return clearly draws inspiration from that framing, which I think is pretty cool. Yes, Sonia Tayaba.
Yep.
Fun times. Guys,
Yeah.
was there anything else you wanted to do or talk about on this chapter, Full Moon?
This is the first time that I can say All for Shiggy looks fucking badass. Like this new form.
This is the first time you can say that?
Well, what I mean is it like because the first time, not the first time. What I mean is like when we saw him in the form that he had looked cool. This one looks badass because it looks like an actual evolution from, you know how evolution from his suit. The other one, it looked like it was supposed to be like this amalgamation of All for One and Shigaraki, right? And the whole arm and whatever, like very Resident Evil, right? But I like how this one actually looks like a suit. It looks like a look, as opposed to just a lot of plaster all around him and Play-Doh somewhere. You know what I mean? Like this looks like an actual form. Like I would like if they were to make an action figure of All for Shiggy, that's the one that I would imagine they would sell because it looks like an actual evolution, and this is the actual character or whatever. Does that make sense?
It does. The hands and fingers just gross me out, but I guess that's a personal preference.
No, well, that's the thing. That's the point. Like, I'm actually scared of this guy now, even more. You know what I mean? It produces that sense of, like, for example, when you would look at Shigaraki pre plus ultra, right?
When he was just a crusty boy.
Exactly. He just looked like a dude with a lot of hands. He was just creepy, you know, and he looked immature and whatever. Then you go into the plus ultra Shigaraki area, and he looks. I agree with Nathan, and he looks amazing. Like he looks great, and but there's not a lot of like actual design with the character. It's just him shirtless, right? Now, when he says War Arc, is he referring to this or when he was released?
What's upcoming in season 6?
Oh, season 6. Okay, see, and okay, the reason I don't like that is because it was overly simplistic. Because his original design, in my opinion, had a lot of personality. And that one, the Plus Ultra one, when he was just released, you just know his. Oh wow, and all you can see is that it's Shigaraki because you can see the face. You know what I mean? When he came back as All for Shiggy towards this area, like it was still being defined, but this one's like the most defined version where anybody that knows a little bit about Shigaraki knows, oh, that's Shigaraki. Holy shit. You know what I mean? Like it has this distinctive quality to it. That's what I like it.
For me, if we're going off of our favorite Shigaraki looks, it's the one right during the War Arc, as Nathan's saying. Hold on, at least this is the design I'm thinking of. We might be on 2 different pages there, but I like this one. This is probably my favorite Shigaraki outfit. I like the cape, the cloak. He still has the hand on his face. But yeah, creepy, deformed mutant Shigaraki in this arc is pretty cool. I will not lie. I thought
it's not too hands-on, at least.
Wow.
True. I thought this comment was interesting, and I think it's fascinating that you brought up She-Hulk here. Would it have been more effective having Mirio seem a little more desperate? Like he tried throwing things at Shigaraki that didn't work, and then it resulted in what we got instead of it, kind of one-shotting the idea.
Well, that's the thing, though. They kind of set that up, though, because in the internal monologue that Mirio has, he can kind of sense that Shigaraki is actively ignoring him because he understands that Mirio can't do anything to him. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how you set that up. The fact that because physically, Mirio's not a threat. If all the heroes are down for the count, pretty much, then there's nothing that he can do to support or create diversions because nobody else is attacking. So he's thinking in that direction and becoming desperate and trying to find. That's why he goes back to the messages from Night Eye and goes into that trance, right? Because he realizes that he has become utterly useless at this moment, while everybody else is on the ground, knocked out. So I think they kind of set that up, especially, and that's that one panel. I think it's on chapter, um, yeah, like right now, when he says, "I know," what is this, page 4? He says, I know now that you have nothing, and then literally on my own, I'm not even worth his time. Like he's already seeing that there's nothing he can throw at him.
Yeah, it's brutal. That also shows how crazy powerful All for One is, right? Because remember, coming out of UA, they were expecting Miruto to be a top 5 hero, and he can't do anything. And that just shows the anomaly of One for All and All for One, right? Like people who you expect to be the greatest heroes don't even compare to their sheer might and power.
Right.
It's crazy to think about.
Play on words, sheer might.
But Isaac, did you have anything else to add on this chapter before we move on to the next one?
Not that I can think of.
Noted. Okay, well, that means we are moving on to chapter 367, the latest chapter, the one that came out today. And if this title doesn't get you jazzed, nothing will in the world of My Hero Academia. Chapter 367, Deku versus All for One. Also, we got a really dope color page spread from Horikoshi, which is fun. It's cute. You know, the gang's just all here watching My Hero Academia Season 6. I hope Twice doesn't get upset with what happens. Same with Miriko and Dabi, because it's not pretty. And Hawks probably loses his wings, but we digress. It's cute art. I love how Toga's just staring at Izuku. Guys, this is a crazy chapter because Deku finally arrives, right? We have that amazing ending on the previous chapter where he just comes in and smashes All for Shiki in the face. But this one takes us back a bit. We finally see what Deku saw off in the distance, right? He sees Star and Stripes' fleet. He sees that they came back because they believe in Izuku Midoriya, because Star and Stripe believed in the next generation. Something Brandon has been making sure he hammered home that we understood what was going on with the story beat. And I just love the Lafayettification of Izuku Midoriya when he comes back with guns and ships, and so the balance shifts. I got a Hamilton reference in here, baby.
Yes.
But I just love the significance, right? If not, Deku came back, and he came back with backup, which we didn't expect. And I just love that idea of he finally lands, right? And who's the first one to greet him? His boy Lemillion. And I think that kind of leads into what you were saying, Brandon, going into this chapter. So you can finally talk about that relationship between Izuku and Togeda and Night Eye and how that all kind of comes to a head again in this chapter.
Yeah. It's very powerful. It's very powerful and very significant. And one of the things that I love about Horikoshi is that all of the main themes that he wants to work, that he's been wanting to work with in terms of the ideas of heroes, heroism, villains, and stuff like that, he always have worn them on his sleeve, right? And the idea of heroes being an inspiration for good, for betterment. We always talk about Superman and talk about how he just wants to inspire people to be better. And it's not about having powers, it's about doing the right thing. The intro, the first 2 episodes of My Hero Academia, I can tell you right now, if I watch them again today, I'm going to cry again today. Like, there's so much heart and simplicity and clarity about the type of story that he's been wanting to tell. And I love how he's been able to make it a lot more complex and serious throughout the entirety of the book. But I love how he was able to go back to the roots of the book and bring it and put it front and center in this particular chapter by talking about linking Stars and Stripes to All Might's legacy. Stars and Stripes believing in All Might no matter what, and thus believing in Izuku. I love that whole connection and the idea that what One for All symbolizes, because One for All now, especially in this chapter and how the chapter ends, the idea of One for All becomes even more clear. It literally is the idea of a community standing together to do what's right. And that and what we see the heroes do and work together for, and the fact that it's not just Deku. He's just the represent. He's just the representation of the entirety of this community. Because he's literally one person, but he's representing everybody, and everybody's with him to present the good stuff. Does that make sense? Especially, and I think it's more apparent than ever in that one shot. And the idea that if Deku decided to do what he wanted, it would have been critical, and he would have lost control. But of course, Deku's not alone. Lemillion comes in and becomes that upperclassman. He's able to get him back into focus, and then we have that great final shot of it. It's just, I don't know. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm on the kind of the flip side of that idea, though, right? Because we have Deku in the previous war, the one about to air in the anime. When Bakugo gets skewered by Shigaraki the first time, he goes berserk, right? He can't control his rage and his anger, and he just loses it. And I kind of hate how this chapter, the same thing happens, and Deku's about to lose it, and Lemillion calms him down, and then we have, flashbacks of All Might and Banjo and Star and Stripes, her men kind of encouraging Deku and telling him to guard his heart and calm down and control his emotions. I really wish that was a moment that Deku had for himself, and I don't think he needed the push by Togeda to get there, because we were showing flashbacks of people already telling him this. It would have been a really great moment for Deku to see Bakugo, and he can still grieve what's happening in the situation, still be angry about it, but I think I would have preferred him controlling his own emotions without needing Lemillion to kind of step in and calm him down. That's just, from a character growth perspective, because it kind of feels redundant of what happened in the previous war.
Interesting.
Isaac, do you have any thoughts on Deku's return?
Well, first and foremost, do you guys remember what I brought up during I think it was the quote-unquote Bakugo death chapter? I was talking about this one. I don't. Maybe it wasn't so scrapped after all, I feel.
I mean, technically, I guess.
Yeah. It was the first thing that actually come to mind when I read this chapter, and I'm honestly somewhat with Mike, but I'm also somewhat with you too. I think it works into context, but in terms of a character development, it would have been nice to see him being able to sort of like get off it himself, kind of deal.
Yeah.
But also, can we all agree that I can't recall which of the users said it, but I have a bad feeling about it. That's probably referencing all the other heroes lying there.
That was Danger Sense, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they are lying like that, I feel like that feels like the most obvious thing that they reference at this point.
I will still never understand how Mandalay lost track of Izuku. They never explain that, and I don't think he ever will.
but I'm able to overlook that plot hole.
It's a major plot hole, though. And yeah,
True.
because think about the entire thing hinges on we can't get in contact with Deku. Why? Why not? That's so strange to me. But anyway, I still really enjoy this chapter. Like I love him kind of Spider-Manning his way across the jets, him coming in, and still, and this is what we love about Izuku, right? Throughout all of the pain that he's feeling, he's still asking All for One, is Shigaraki in there? Because that's what he's here to do, right? He's here to try and get Tomura Shigaraki. He wants to be done with All for One, which I think is fascinating.
Let's see how he does it.
The cover does go hard.
Now that particular final panel of that chapter, it is so awesome, so great.
Oh yeah,
Like I think it's the first time that that's the first time. Oh my god!
This is the only explanation that I will accept.
Nobody told her to get Sprint.
She didn't have 5G. That was probably the problem.
Probably. I love the idea of all the quirks manifesting themselves in a way, but I think this is the first time that we see him with all the users like this. Very Avatar, right? But
you said it, not me.
Hey.
I was just gonna say, shouldn't that be something Mike would point out?
You
True.
see, Avatar: The Last Airbender is more culturally impactful than the Blue Cats movie, so I don't have to be the only one to talk about it. The entire world knows it exists.
Avatar is a good movie, as in a good movie. Cats is good in a horrible sense.
That's not what he meant, but we're gonna go on.
So I have a quick question. All for One. That's the point of view who's talking. He recognizes this energy, like emitting from Izuku. Which user's power is that? Is that Fajin? Is this a quirk we haven't seen? Because I'm pretty sure Deku has one quirk we still don't know about, and I kind of got lost there.
Same.
Well, the one with the headband, isn't that the second user?
The second user's the Bakugo looking one, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the third user then, the one with the headband.
Right. So is that Faj? Like it might just be Fajin, which is fine. I'm just trying to make sure this isn't a power that we are discovering for the first time.
Well, I think the big also thing is that this is the first time that we see that All for Shiggy has seen Deku use that quirk.
Oh, right, because he unlocked it when he was fighting Lady Nagan after the war. Good point.
Correct.
That's why he's like, oh, he hit harder this time.
Right.
Makes sense. Good job.
So, yeah. But I you know what? I get where you guys are coming from with the whole Berserk thing and stuff like that, and the idea of character development. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah,
The only thing to me was like, I just liked it from a thematic standpoint more than anything, of how he connected all those dots, from All Might to everyone else, and it goes to him, and I don't know. I'm a symbol person, so I enjoyed it that well.
Yeah, I feel like he could have accomplished that without having the whole Lemillion trying to calm Izuku down. Like that all still could have happened internally, and it would have had the same effect. You even threw in flashbacks to Lemillion and how they handled the situation with Overhaul. It just kind of felt like, Deku, we don't have to talk you down, man. We've been through this before. It just felt a little redundant.
If anything, the one different factor, and I'm not discrediting. I mean, would you guys have a point that's solid? The one factor that I see as slightly different is the idea that it plays into what Shigaraki was kind of taunting him with. The idea that he was not at the right place. That he was not at the place that he was supposed to be. And the fact that he took so long to get there, no pun intended, allowed all this to happen, as opposed to this happening while he was there. It does create a different kind of feeling and reaction.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it doesn't discredit. I mean, you guys have valid points. So
You know, I just want to say I'm with you, but I think we should prepare ourselves because, yeah. Also, I just find it funny. I know Lemillion doesn't know that Edgeshot is like sacrificing himself, but I just think it's funny. It's like Edgeshot's giving Bakugo a new heart. There's not going to be any casualties, and it's like, bro, Edgeshot's not going to make it. It's kind of dark.
so what are you saying that Togatai is playing a Nick Fury card?
Essentially, I mean, we saw the All Might card on the ground. I told you it was an Avengers reference because we zoomed in on it twice in this chapter.
Yes, we did.
And it's like, okay, just seeing the piles of fingers and thumbs scattered throughout the battlefield, it's just bizarre and gross, and yeah, it's strange.
It's comedy.
Yeah, Edgeshot got done dirty because, like, we didn't remember how many times I had stressed where the heck is Edgeshot, because he was in the opening shot when this battle started, and then for like 10 chapters he just wasn't anywhere to be seen until he had to sacrifice himself. That's one thing that kind of annoys me. Like, he could have at least just been in the background trying to figure out trying to find an opening or something, but like, we didn't even draw him as a background character. That's kind of frustrating, at least for me.
Not gonna deny that.
True and fair. I'm actually very glad that it's not going on break.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited.
I'm wondering what's gonna happen with Strategic Watcher. Maybe that was his plan, right? He was just trying to figure out what the heck is
Maybe
going
he
on.
was one of the last lines of defense to protect Eraserhead and
like Lemillion, but somehow Lemillion got into this fight before Edgeshot. But yeah, I'm glad it's not going on break. I do think it's fascinating how this chapter specifically held shots on Sun Eater and Nejire. Like, we knew Mirika was down, but what happened to Nejire and Sun Eater? Are they going to get back up anytime soon, or are they also like down for the count right now?
I mean, it looks like
at this point, who knows?
Yeah. Isaac, do we get a POV change next week?
I would honestly, as the troll I am, I would love it to happen.
One more Dobby chapter for old time's sake, I guess.
No,
actually, that's a good point. So, if we have a POV, which I think we agree that we don't want it at this point, if it's gonna happen, where do you guys want to go?
Toga and Uraraka, because at least that part we haven't covered yet.
I agree. I don't want to go back to Endeavor and whatever the heck is happening over there. I don't need to see Dobby for the 100th time fight Shoto. So Uraraka, Asui, and Toga are probably the only ones that I might be somewhat interested in. Though, knowing Horikoshi and how his mind works and how much he loves his anime, the anime is probably going to start off with Dobby, because that's usually what's been happening. So we might end up going back to Shoto and Dobby.
Oh, because he wants it to mirror?
He does that a lot. He mirrors quite a bit with the anime. So that's the thing.
Oh, boy.
What about you, sir? Where would you want to go?
I actually want to go back to find out. I want to finish the whole All for One Endeavor thing. I want that to be wrapped up. Because I don't want to fight All for Shiggy and know that guy
is still around.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I want it to feel final. And until that guy is no longer there, this cannot feel final.
You know, Nathan, you say this, I would love to see whatever the heck Ashido is up to. What is the alien queen doing? If she's fighting Gas Mask, I'm cool with that. Make it a one shot. Awesome. Then let's cut back to this fight.
Where's Shinzo? Is he with Toga and Uraga?
Good point. I don't know. He'd be very useful right now. I know that for sure.
Oh, by the way, I find it very amusing and tongue-in-cheek, but pretty cool. The fact that whenever he uses Black Whip, it says "swip" as opposed to "thwip."
Whip.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well done.
Very well done. But yeah, Lemillion's Nobody's Given Up hit so hard, I will admit. Just going back to these heroes changing that future, right? That night I saw, and creating this ideal of what a hero is supposed to be, which is why I think Mirio's lines still work. Like, I'm not bashing the chapter saying I hate it. I just think thematically for Deku, we didn't necessarily need all of it, but for Togata's character and kind of voicing and echoing that message from the overhaul arc and the thesis of My Hero Academia, it's a nice reminder as we come to the end of the series.
And also, that's why I liked it, because it also goes back to the idea of none of these heroes are anything without what they were able to pick up from the people that came before. It's this idea of legacy, right?
Yeah.
And this is the last lesson. Not saying they're going to kill Togata off, but this is the last lesson that he has for Deku. Like you have to really understand the situation. Not everything is what it seems. It's not over till it's like the most simplest thing. It's not over till it's over, you know?
Right.
But I like the fact that we're no longer, when you read this, you're no longer thinking about his ass. You're thinking about him as a hero, inspiring. And I think that's important.
Speak for yourself, but yeah.
Wow.
Peaches are still in the back of my brain, man. I'm sorry.
I bought my peaches down in Georgia.
Oh my gosh. The fact that you both had two different songs. Oh, jeez. But yeah, this last panel goes hard. I am excited to see Deku use all of these different quirks against Shigaraki, or all for Shiggy, until we get to the true form of Shigaraki. Is there anything you guys want to see specifically? Like when Bakugo eventually wakes up. I still remember how before he went down, he was trying to deduce a plan, come up with a plan. He was reading his movements and his patterns. Do you think he's going to come back to life and he's going to have a plan to win this fight?
Might be interesting.
Isak.
Might be interesting.
I mean, I don't really know. At least we know that this manga isn't ass.
And with that, guys, gals, non-binary pals, this has been My Hero Academia, chapters 366 and 367. Full Moon and Deku versus All for One. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and make sure you turn on notifications, because you never know when we're going live. We're going to be going live, I feel like, quite a bit, though, because we're going into fall anime season. And we've got My Hero Academia Season 6, Chainsaw Man Core 1. We've also got so much going on, like Bleach. Guys, Bleach is back. Isaac, are you excited to cover Bleach? Because I know this is going to be a hype arc, right?
Yes.
Also, I don't know what happened, but when I said that this manga
Thanks for
is
joining us, Nathan.
ass, my entire Google Chrome just turned off, and I hadn't done anything with it. I just were hand off mouse and all that. Yes.
You can't just talk about ass and I'm sorry.
Midnight's ghost is haunting you now at this point. For
I mean, that's a nice ass too.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Good grief. So, if you're still listening, we are having a giveaway over on the Twitter. Go enter
Twitter.
that. It ends on the 30th. It's amazing. Hot takes for the war arc. You love to see it. Can't wait to hear them. But yeah, thanks for joining us in the comments, Nathan. Guys, make sure you don't miss any of the live streams. Subscribe. It's going to be a fun time. We're excited for My Hero Academia Season 6.
So
and
excited.
Spy Family Core 2 coming up this Saturday. Live streams on Sunday. Brandon, got anything else to add, man?
No, man. I'm excited for more My Hero. This is awesome.
Should be a fun time. And the manga's not on break, so we get a ton of My Hero next week, honestly. Where can they find you on the internet, Scarlet Fan?
You can find me on Twitter at the Scarlet Fan 52. You can find me on Instagram at the Scarlet Fan 52 as well.
Love to see it. Mr. Wolf, what about you,
Well,
sir?
Well, you can find my assets at Wilbum
Oh my
Entertainment and Emblemaniac on Twitter, and the pod over at the Amateur Otaku pod on Twitter. And we are also on every podcast feed besides Beam when it comes to our regular episodes. But that's not the weekly coverage such as these.
You can find me at Novice Cinephile everywhere on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube at youtube.com/Novice Cinephile, where you can also find the chatter after. We just released an episode on Parasite. We also dropped an episode here on Parasite the Maxim. No relation. We just thought it was funny. But, guys, we will catch you next week where Deku continues his fight against All for Shiggy. We'll see if All for Shiggy's ass ends up being grass. Until next time. Go beyond. Plus ultra.
Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.